Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to. Lots to talk about. Biden today. Biden the Builder. Yep, Joe Biden the Builder. Call him whatever you want. Hard Hat Joe, Jelly Bucket Joe. Getting stuff done. Today announced $42 billion investment in high-speed internet. For those of us who live in rural America, music to the ears. This is one of those things you go, I need it badly, and rural America does. Inner cities need it absolutely. But to bring us into the 21st century, this is an investment that should have happened, I don't know, 10 years ago. And the thing that gets me, and this is another one of those moments where you go, why has it taken so long? Why has it taken so long to invest in the future of this country? Because remember, we've got a Republican Party who tells us that they believe in America first. So why haven't we invested heavily in America first? Why haven't we spent the money that's desperately needed? Oh, that's right. We had to give it away to rich people. We had to ensure that tax breaks for corporate America were firmly in place. We had to make sure the Elon Musks and the Zuckerbergs and the Gateses and our billionaire class, we had to make sure that they had a little extra cheese on their Whopper, a little more on the side. They're 15 generations down the road, their kids are still not going to have to work. And what did we do for that? We have forgone the investments that we need. So today, Joe says $42 billion in expanding high-speed internet and a push to get, finally, millions of people connected with modern day internet. Now look at myself here. I live in a rural community. I've got one choice. And it's a business internet that I have to use for our business, and it's $400 a month. Nowhere in the world do they pay the kind of rates that we pay. And I know, but Rick, we're America. We're number one. Yeah, we are. In this vein, we are number one because we're getting gouged badly because we've been so dependent on corporate America to do the things that we need. And I look at in this moment, internet is a utility and should be regulated as such, should be invested as such, should be handled as such, but we're not going to do that because our Republican friends dead set against it. And it got me thinking today, because I was talking about this the other day, that in the context of the whole Joe Rogan dust up with RFK Jr. and Professor Peter Hotez. And I said something that look, you can't argue with a destroyer. You can't debate a destroyer. You can't have a conversation with a destroyer because all they have in their mind is tearing things apart. And my grandfather always said, any idiot with a hammer can tear down a house. It takes a skilled craftsman to build one. And this is where we are in this moment. We've got a bunch of idiots running around with hammers with Republican behind their name. And we got Biden and the Democrats who are rebuilding, are pushing, I argue skillfully, in helping us rebuild this country. Now, I say all the time, we got to take off the red hat and the blue hat, get a hard hat, and rebuild this country like they did in Philly. Got that bridge up in under 2 weeks. We have the ability when we want to, when we're not stuck at, one person wants to get something done, the other person's destroying it. And I started thinking about this today because the Republicans have been destroyers for a very long time. It's been all about how do we destroy education? How do we destroy healthcare access for working families? How do we, you name it, go after the military? Do you know right now, this is mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing. And again, remember, Our Republican friends are supposed to be the party of the military, party of strong national defense. And yet, for the first time in 164 years, the Marine Corps is going to be led by an acting commandant. Because you've got the dumbest guy in the Senate, Tommy Tuberville, holding everything up. Why? Destroyer. He has no plans, no idea, no vision, no policy chops to move us forward. It's all about, I want my way. It's all about, we're going to show you, fill in the blank of idiotic reason why. Stop and think about where we are globally in this moment. And to have a break in command, to have a scenario like this in our military makes us look weak. Makes us look ineffective. Now, look, again, we can have our disagreements, but there are places where you argue, and there are places where you don't. And this is one of these moments. I was thinking about the old labor frame. Which side are you on? This is this moment as well. The sides are very clear. Builder, destroyer. Which side are you on? And it's simple. It goes back to being a child. When you were a kid and your parents took you to the beach, did you meticulously build your sandcastle with your bucket and shovel? Did you make little pathways and little buildings and spend the day building something on the beach? Or were you that snotty little brat that came along afterwards and kicked everything over? Well, right now we've got two choices. Builder. Joe the Builder. Democrats the Builder. And snotty little Republican kid who's destroying things. Those are our choices. Do I like it? No, don't like it at all. Wish I didn't think this. Wish it didn't play out in policy. Wish it didn't play out in what they're actually doing. And I've said before, Republicans hate working people. Look at what they do. It comes back to what you do. And at no point have the Republicans, while controlling the House, have had anything positive. There's nothing. Well, that's not true. That's not entirely true. They have a Republican Study Committee report that says they want to destroy Social Security, that says they want to destroy Medicare. They want to destroy the social safety net. They want to destroy our ability to regulate ourselves. You look at the states of Texas, the Death Star bill, destroying local communities' ability to regulate their own communities, passing, time, it's going to get hot, passing breaks, mandatory breaks for heat exposure. No, can't do that because we want dead workers. Now, they don't say that explicitly, but the policies, what does it get us? Well, within days of them passing the Death Star bill, what happened? You had a UPS, a postal worker, USPS worker, who died on the job from heat exposure. It's what they do, folks. And this is the frustrating part of all this. Now, the good thing, there's a positive here. Biden's approval rating has popped up a little bit. He's up to 43%, highest it's been since last August, because he's getting stuff done. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more and more of this. And look, the administration has got to do more of touting their own horn. They got to be out there saying, look, we're doing this stuff. So today when he tweeted out infrastructure, education, healthcare, infrastructure is, internet is infrastructure. You go, yeah, it's what we need to do. From Alaska to Appalachia, he says every community will have what they need to connect folks to reliable high-speed internet by 2030. That kind of investment, that kind of vision coming from one side. I know, Rick, it was a bipartisan. What do you get? You had a handful of Republicans came along. All of them go back to their districts and take credit for it, though, which is always very comical to me. So for me, when I look at this, it's simple. Which side are you on? You on the side of the people who are saying, look, there's a future. We can move forward as a country. We can build great things. We can do good things. Or the side that it's all about the no. It's all about kicking and screaming and no, 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 and throwing tantrums and getting attention. For me, it's that simple. And I guess, again, I go back to my high school government teacher. Government decides who gets what. Right now, we've got Builder Joe. Builder Joe is moving us towards high-speed internet by 2030, putting the money where his mouth is. And that's going to be good for the country. When I've had guests in the past come on and say, when Biden's term is over, history will look back at him as one of the best presidents. He's not the best speaker. He's not going to go out and wow you with his oration skills. But the policies that they're moving, it's good stuff. And it's going to help us in the future. Now, all the Republicans all they got is tearing things down. All they got is destroying. They got a hammer. They're a bull in a china shop with a hammer between their nostrils. And all it's about is stomping and smashing. So Republican friends, take your party back to sane. Bring them along, because there aren't Republican or Democratic roads and bridges. It's not going to be a Democratic internet. It's going to be internet of, for, and by us. And it's about time. But I want to hear your thoughts. Do we need these investments? And why is it taking so long? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So you look at it, the reality, the destroyers, they destroyed Roe. They got their Supreme Court to destroy Roe versus Wade. Now, chaos. The country, women in this country are in chaos. And understand, Griswold's next. They're going to come after contraception. No, Rick, they would never do that. Didn't you hear what they said? They said they wouldn't. They said, no, that's decided law. They would never come after Griswold or Loving or any of those, or Bergefeld or any of, no, they wouldn't do that. Of course not. Except you look at Wisconsin, you got a state representative there, Chuck Wiggars. Chuck went on a rant about how contraception leads to infidelity and STDs. Yeah, because it's those women folk they're dirty. They're dirty. It's not him. It's not where he fell with his little thingy. No, none of that. It's the women folk problem. And these people are in our government. In fact, if you saw over the weekend the Faith and Freedom Coalition powwow, a bunch of people wanting to do just this. Control people. Go after the women folk. They don't need no contraception. Back in the kitchen. Barefoot pregnant. Pumping out cheap labor. And the question is, and I keep coming back to this, and I keep asking the question: how much worse do Republicans want to make it? How much more are they willing to destroy? How much of the house are they going to tear down? How far to the ground are you willing to let them destroy this country with their idiocy? This is the frustrating part in all of this. There is no policy that Republicans are looking for right now that's going to help this country. Everything that they are pushing is pain, suffering, struggle. And again, this comes back to my belief that the leaders, the religion folks, the faith and freedom people, the fire and brimstone folks want that kind of misery. They want that kind of suffering, especially for poor working people, because you're not chosen. And I look at this latest bit that's coming around. Republicans are pushing heavy to restart the student loan repayment stuff. During the pandemic, people who had student loans, we paused the student loans. Biden's trying to push this off as long as possible. And understand, the economists that are weighing in on this are saying, look, if we restart these loan payments, the pressure on consumers is going to be so great that we're probably going to throw ourselves into a recession. The latest polling said that about a third of borrowers, they're not going to be able to make the payments. So now you're going to have chaos. You're going to have all kinds of stuff going on. Where's the help? Because we now know during the pandemic, people who took out student loans, they probably went further into debt. So working families are deeper in debt than they were, just trying to make ends meet. Inflation's been through the roof. The Republican plan for inflation has always been cause a recession, blame it on Joe Biden. When we could do smart things, this is my problem with where we are as a country. We're being pushed into polar opposites and not coming to any reasonable ideas. The student loan situation is simple to me. It is a simple fix. The federal government could buy up all the student loans at a very low rate. They could buy them up. They could charge 0.5% interest, which is what would cover the cost of administering them. And people would just pay back what they borrowed. Not a profit motive, not making bankers rich, not making these scheme student loan groups wealthier than they can imagine, but saying, look, we need an educated workforce. We need people who are able to name it. Doctors, lawyers, name it. Engineers, phlebotomists, name it. We need an educated populace. They were forced to take out these loans to get this education. They should pay it back. And I've never said anything different. I've never said that we should forgive it. I've never been on the forgiveness bandwagon. I've always said, look, they should pay it back. But they should pay back what they borrowed. Not with a gazillion dollars in interest. And as I've talked about before, I know people who have got massive student loan debts. And these for-profit entities are gouging their eyes out. Every time they lose a job and they have to stop, the interest doesn't stop. The penalties don't stop. It's all about the profit. It's all about... I was thinking about this today. This idea that there was a movie a number of years ago on credit cards. And the CEO of one of the credit card companies was asked why they give credit cards to people who have filed bankruptcy after the bankruptcy discharge. So like if someone ran up a $70,000 worth of credit card bills and the bankruptcy judge wipes it out, the credit card company, they want to be the first one to get that person a credit card because they know with our law that you can't file bankruptcy again for X amount of years. So they know if they get in first, they're going to be top of the list to get repaid. But the guy said, look, these are people who have a taste for credit. These are people who we know are used to being in debt. This is what the student loan situation has created in this country. A bunch of people who are used to being in debt. They were told as 17-year-olds that the only way that they're going to be able to get into the middle class is to take out a massive amount of debt, more debt than they could possibly imagine at 17 years old, to go to college and get this opportunity. And look, college graduates do better than non-college graduates. I that's right on the table. But what we've done is we've trained a generation to be willing to be in debt. We've trained a generation to not worry about, hey, I've got $100,000 in student loan debt. What's $30,000 for a car? What's $20,000 on a credit card? You get this kind of, as that guy said, a taste for credit, and you're willing to, just make payments because you never think you're getting out from under it. This is what we've done to a couple of generations. Like, I grew up with the mindset of don't go in debt, pay things off, don't be long-term debt. Make sure that you're fiscally in a sound spot. Have savings for emergencies in the future. We've trained a generation that's old school thinking. It's okay to be in massive amounts of debt, and I think that's wrong. And now, are we surprised that during the pandemic you had people taking on more debt? Are you surprised that a third of the people aren't going to be able to make payments? So immediately you're going to have a ton of money pulled out of the consumer market, which means mom and pops are going to suffer first. The big box retailers down the road. But mom and pop suffers first. The small diners, you name the local small stuff, they're hurt first. And that's how the economy will slow, and we're going to get nailed. And this will make our destroyer Republican friends very happy, because they get the recession they've been all tingly in the panties over for a very long time, so they can put it on Joe Biden, and they get to punish people. Because I still come back to the cruelty is the point. What they do is about inflicting suffering. And I know that's hard to hear, because I don't want to believe it either, but I look at what they do. And I wish someone would say, no, Rick, this is why they do it. And I know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that rhetorical nonsense that, sorry, not buying. And hasn't worked. This, for me, is why I'm such a supporter of Joe Biden's. Doing the work, moving us forward with ideas and plans. Now, we can debate those ideas and plans. I talk about this all the time with my friend Joe Walsh. We disagree policy-wise on just about everything. But the idea of saving democracy is something we agree on. We look forward to the day when we can argue about policy. Question becomes, how long is it going to take us to wake up? I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, you'll find ours. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. That was the day 1,400 workers at the Milwaukee Electric Railway and Light Company launched a 4-day strike. 3 unions, representing about a third of the total employees, were fighting to break the hold of the company union. The Transit and Power Company had already fired 13 workers for union activity. IBEW, Operating Engineers, and the Amalgamated Association of Street and Electric Railway Employees Union led the walkout. They demanded reinstatement of their fired coworkers. They also wanted the right to pick their own bargaining representatives and insisted the company union rescind its policy of barring strikers from membership and further employment. The walkout began early in the morning as strikers surrounded car barns, garages, and power plants. Company agents barricaded facilities with barbed wire, supplied Pullman cars for strikebreakers, and posted armed guards on streetcars. Almost immediately, striker Joseph Urbanski was mowed down and seriously injured as he tried to stop a scab streetcar. By nightfall, 5,000 strikers and their supporters had blocked 5 transit lines. They ripped protective screens from the streetcar windows and forced scab drivers to abandon their routes. As crowds swelled to 10,000 on the second day of the strike, a little more than half of all cars were in service. More than 100 streetcars had been damaged. Socialist Mayor Daniel Hohen placed the blame squarely on the utility company. Street battles with police and scabs continued into the third day of the strike. Milwaukee's Federated Trades and Building Trades Councils threatened a general strike in the city by July 2nd if the strike was not settled. By June 30th, workers celebrated total victory when the company conceded to all of their demands. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
In Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Humpty Dumpty scornfully declares that when I use a word, it means just what I choose it to mean. So what does woke mean? It's become the pet political aspersion that today's kooky right-wing hucksters hurl at liberals. But the hurlers would be whopper-jawed to learn that it was actually coined by and for progressives. Indeed, it admonishes people to be awake to the dangers posed by hate-filled bigots and reactionaries like today's right-wing extremists. Surprising historical tidbit. The first person reported to have used the word was Huddie Ledbetter, the legendary black blues artist known as Leadbelly. Among his many classic songs was Scottsboro Boys, about 9 black teenagers falsely accused in 1931 of raping 2 Alabama white women. As a black musician who traveled the back roads of the Jim Crow South, Leadbelly warned others to pay attention when in a viciously racist state. Best stay woke, he cautioned. But out of blind ignorance, blind arrogance, or both, today's adapters of the Jim Crow mentality have perverted common sense wokeness into a verbal whip to lash African Americans, immigrants, Democrats, women, LGBTQ people, and all others they don't like. Pretty much everyone who looks, thinks, prays, and acts different from them. How kooky? They've declared librarians, science, Mickey Mouse, and Bud Light to be their evil enemies. Don't be woke, they bark, demanding autocratic, plutocratic, and theocratic laws to coerce compliance with their own retrogressive bigotries. This is Jim Hightower saying, bear in mind that this is no longer a fringe cult, but the mainstream of the Republican Party, including its top congressional leaders, presidential wannabes, and state officials. Actually, you can easily comprehend what these Humpty Dumptys really mean by their don't be woke war cry. Just substitute the word sane for woke.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So here's a distraction. I've been followed on Twitter Teamsters President Sean O'Brien, who tweeted out a couple of days ago, going after the greedy CEO, this Mark Wayne Mullen. And Mark Wayne Mullen tweeted back that, they're ready to throw fists. Challenged him to an MMA fight. Because O'Brien called him a clown, and I think he is a clown. I don't think he belongs in the Senate. But he went back after him, so it's going to be interesting to see if O'Brien, who is a boxer, the guy who's he's a tough guy, and Mark Wayne Mullen, who is an MMA fighter, going to see it. Interesting to see if they get together. But to be honest, major distraction from the fact that working people are getting screwed over, and I think it's the reason that Mullen did it. But we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on, I don't know if you saw the news about the proposal that UPS put on the table to the Teamsters for the UPS contract, but it's almost like daring the Teamsters to go out on strike, and that's why I've asked our good friend Richard Hooker to come talk with us. Richard's the Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 623 in Philadelphia, teamsterslocal623.org, the website. Richard, thanks for taking time for us.
Brother, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with this little dust up between O'Brien and Mark Wayne Mullen. This has been coming for a while, I think.
Yeah, it has, and now we're going to see. O'Brien will have to put his money where his mouth is. I mean, when you go on Twitter and say any place, any time, and all this other kind of stuff, these are the things that could happen. So if it happens, good luck to him. but I think the senator is a MMA fighter, correct?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
I
but see,
know.
my position on this is simple. I mean, the reality is I stand with O'Brien because O'Brien's fighting for working people. Mullen is a greedy CEO. He is somebody who's bullied people over the years, especially his workforce. So for me, I'm gonna, even if O'Brien is the underdog, I'm cheering that guy out.
Yeah, I mean, this you always gotta cheer for the working man over the employer. So but I think this is one of them checks that he may not be able to cash. But like
Yeah,
you said, this is a big distraction. I mean, we got some big things happening, and I think we need to focus on ABF contract, UPS contract, the situation at Yellow Freight. I mean, these things that we really need to be paying attention to, and not these two individuals sparring on Twitter, potentially have a fight. I mean, listen, working people need help, and this is not the way to do it. So hopefully they can squash it and move on.
let's talk about the UPS offer. I saw what was leaked. And I got to be honest, as someone who's done negotiating in the past and had been part of this kind of stuff, I looked at that as a giant middle finger from UPS. There is no way any sane, rational person would have even entertained what they put on the table. And it's not surprising that the Teamsters negotiating committee walked out the door. I wanted to get your thoughts, though.
Yeah, when you make a company the most profitable it has ever been, and then they come to the table with pennies. You're talking about 27 and a half cents every 6 months for the first 2 years, and then the last 3 years, 30 cents every 6 months. That's not a raise. It's just a slap in the face of every UPS Teamster. But not only that, it's a slap in the face to labor in general. The employer is trying to tell you that no matter what you do, no matter how many profits you give them, they will still give you crumbs. And it's just totally disrespectful. And at this rate, um, I don't see any other way that we have to strike, because they need to know that we're just not going to take this at all.
Yeah, I had listeners email me and ask me what I thought, and I said, look, if just what I see from the outside, if this is an actual true proposal, this is a declaration of war. This is go on strike. We're ready to take you on, and that I got to tell you, that's one of those things that I find troubling.
I agree, but again, this is the arrogance and the hostility, the contentious behavior of UPS. They don't believe that we're up for the fight. They believe that they can do this job on their own. They don't need the Teamsters, because why would you do that
Yeah.
unless you're trying to send a message? Like you said, this is a war cry. Okay, you got a new leadership. They're talking about striking us. We've been hearing this for the last 2 years. Put your money where your mouth is. We're going to give you 27 and a half cents every 6 months. Now, what you going to do? And they're going to find out if they keep up these antics. They're going to find out what we're going to do. August 1st will be here before you know it.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that at some point we have to, without question, have to push back on, and I think your members are ready for that.
Oh, absolutely. We've been paying our members here at 623 for the last 2.5 years. We've been talking about a strike savings. We've been talking about how they can save money each week. We've had our credit union come down to the union hall for our general membership meetings to talk about savings plans for finances. We've been talking about the issues. We've been talking about strike captains, and then just being ready for this fight if it needs to be taken to the street. We have a documentary right now going on with our members, so they're telling their stories, and I can't wait for everybody to see this. It talks about the brutality and the hostility and the retaliation, harassment that UPS puts our members through, and that story is being told right now. And our members are ready. Once they saw these proposals, that just really pushed them over the edge to want to take the company to the street.
And this is one of those things where UPS, what did they have, like, what was it, $13.9 billion in profit?
Yes.
It's not like they can't afford to share a little. And I know that they've done massive stock buybacks to enrich investors and enrich the CEO. It seems it seems like this is that moment where they think they're ready to take the Teamsters on and try and break things up.
Absolutely, and this is where we need as Teamsters, we have to be more together than ever. We can't show the company any sign of weakness. We can't let the company see that we don't want to strike, or we can't be talking about it about, oh man, I'm across the picking line. This is where we need to be more unified than ever before, because the company is really calling our bluff right now, and we need to answer the call. We need to show up, stand out, do whatever we need to do to show this company they can take chances if they want to, but come August 1st, we'll see them on the side of the road.
Listen to the Rick Smith Show here with Richard Hooker. Richard's the Secretary Treasurer of Teamsters Local 623 in Philadelphia. You can check out their website, teamsterslocal623.org. We'll get links out on social media. Now, there's been some reporting by a number of different places saying that, this is all just a show. This is all just, a performance that really the union's in bed with the company, that they're not going to get a great contract, that there's all this. Do you buy in any of this stuff that's being thrown out?
Well, see, and that's the issue with social media and the members not receiving the information that they're asking for, because I think a lot of this stuff wouldn't come up if the members had actually saw the union's proposals and saw what they were asking for. Because I think what happens is when you're not getting the information that is needed, that's when rumors, that's when the distractions, that's when everybody is kind of doing their own thing. But if we could see what the union has put forth, then I think a lot of these rumors wouldn't even have been produced. So hopefully moving forward, that the IBT and the National Negotiating Committee could let the membership see what they're actually proposing. That way we could put all these rumors and all of this ambiguity to bed, because it's not good, especially going into the ninth inning, man. We need to be more unified. We need to make sure that we are standing firm. But in order to do that, we do need to see what our officials and negotiators have proposed to the company. That way, all the deal has already been done. They're in the bed with the management and all this other kind of stuff. We need to kick that stuff to the curb, because in order for us to win this contract, everybody has to be together.
And as I understand, look, and I've talked to a number of UPS workers across the country, and folks have emailed me and shared their thoughts. It seems like now, more than any time that I can remember, the members are ready for bear. I mean, this has been something that has been cooking. So it seems like there's a perfect storm that we should probably be expecting on August 1st, there to be a strike.
Absolutely. Listen, this pandemic really pushed workers to the edge, especially UPS workers. 4-6 punches, they dangled a carrot in front of our members' face with the market rate adjustments, and then they took them back without telling them. The aggressive management style, the hostility working there, people dying while working, not getting paid on time, not being paid properly. And then you're constantly working, you're making the company all these profits, and then they give you a proposal that is not even worth the paper that it's put on. All of that has pushed the workers to the edge. And then, listen, August 1st can't get here fast enough if they don't change their approach to how they're going to negotiate.
Any words to your members?
Listen, let's stay united, and we're going to win this fight. There's no doubt in my mind, because there is nothing that UPS can do without us. There's no delivery, there's no profits, there is nothing. So they need us more than they try to make it seem like they don't. They do, and they cannot make it without the worker. They cannot make it without every single part-timer, every single feeder driver, every single package driver. They cannot make it without us. And as long as we remember that, we have the upper hand. There is no profit without our labor. There is no all these stock buybacks and all this profitability that they have endured over the last few years. There is none of that without us. Stay united, stay ready to fight, and get some good shoes, because we're going to be walking that line come August 1st.
There you go. Now, I remember during the pandemic, and you had talked about the market rate adjustment, here locally where I'm at, They were paying like $24 an hour to get people to come and work on the inside. I'm looking at the numbers that they put on the table, and that's nowhere near what they put on the table. And that just seems odd to me, considering that, during the pandemic they were paying that rate, then they clawed it back, and now they're getting nowhere even close to that in this moment.
Like you said earlier, this is a declaration of war. They don't believe that we have enough to fight them. They probably believe that we're not united, and we have to show them. Sometimes, man, in order to beat a bully, you got to punch him in the mouth. And August 1st, we're going to be punching them in the mouth. And it's up to them. This strike is totally up to them, not up to us.
Yeah.
This is up to them. And if they make the wrong decision, then August 1st, we'll be on the other side of the road, and there'll be in those trucks burning up. Hopefully they don't pass out. Hopefully nobody loses their life. But if it happens, that's on them, because our workers are the best at what we do. They made the company the most profitable it has ever been. The reason UPS is number one in logistics is because of the Teamsters, and they need to know that. Yeah. They know it, but they're going to find out the hard way.
Yeah, what's that? You blank around and find out? Yeah, they're going to find out. Now, not just money just isn't the big sticking points in this either. There was a lot of language, economic language, that the O'Brien folks were saying, look, we want to get rid of the 22.4. We want to do away with the 2 tiers. We want to make this a full-time job again. There's a lot more here than just the pennies and the dollars and cents. There's actually a future here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Get rid of the 224 is huge, because those members were doing the same exact job as a regular package car driver, but they were getting paid $5-6 less, and they didn't have the protections as a regular package car driver. Same job, same pay, equal work for equal pay. Then you have the part-timers looking for full-time jobs. That needs to happen. Then this harassment and intimidation that UPS really just thrives on, that definitely needs to be addressed, because UPS has made so much money, they'll just throw money at the problem and it's not being fixed. You can't throw money at harassment. You can't throw money at, the 224s. That has to be taken care of. Just like supervisors working, they'll just pay that off. It needs to be some really serious language changes, some really serious penalties, because UPS has made so much money, they could just throw it away. And they need to know that these issues that we are more concerned about is not something that you can throw money at. We can't be bought off. We don't want to come to work and be retaliated against. If I get hurt, I don't want to be threatened with my job, right? That stuff money can't address. So hopefully the language in the contract addresses those things, so our members can come to work in peace and not be bullied all the time.
A little, wages, hours, conditions. That's what people organize and negotiate over. Richard, I wish you guys the best. I know you'll be back between now and if there is a strike. I hope there's not. I hope you get what you guys earn. But in the event that you have to go, you got to go.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Richard Hooker. Appreciate the time. Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 623. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1893. That was the day that Illinois Governor John Peter Altgeld pardoned Samuel Fielden, Oscar Neebe, and Michael Schwab, who were imprisoned for their alleged role in the Haymarket bombing of 1886. 8 men had been accused of throwing a bomb at a workers' rally in Chicago. 4 were hung. 1 died in prison before he could be executed, and 3 were incarcerated. Governor Altgeld had been born in Germany. He was a progressive leader who helped pass worker safety laws and child labor laws. Efforts to free the 3 Haymarket prisoners had been underway since their sentencing. During the trial, there was no physical evidence linking any of the accused men to the crime. Governor Altgeld agreed to look into the case. He issued a report outlining his findings. At the end, he concluded, quote, the trial was not fair. He wrote, quote, I'm convinced that it is clearly my duty to act. I grant an absolute pardon to Samuel Fielden, Oscar Neebe, and Michael Schwab this 26th day of June, 1893. This pardon came just one day after a monument to the martyrs was dedicated at the cemetery where the 5 martyrs were buried. Today, part of Governor Altgeld's pardon is inscribed on a plaque on the back side of that monument. Governor Altgeld paid a political price for the pardon. He was attacked by the press. The Chicago Tribune attacked his German heritage, declaring there was, quote, not a drop of true American blood in his veins. He does not reason like an American, does not feel like one, and consequently does not behave like one. In 1896, he lost his bid at re-election for standing up for justice. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
The reality is nobody wants to go on strike, and I hope that the Teamsters come to an agreement. I hope UPS gets their heads out of that orifice. And, look, as someone who's been on strike in the past, there's nothing great comes of this. UPS is going to lose enormous amounts of profit, going to lose enormous numbers of customers. It doesn't make any sense for them to do what they're doing. The beginning of this is, hey, I think they believe that there's going to be a moment of weakness, and I think they're going to be sorely mistaken. Now, it's still 35 days down the road to get where things need to get, and we will see if they come around. Now, interesting weekend. Donald Trump was in front of the faithful. The Faith and Freedom Coalition Conference played the martyr card. And, it's what he's got. He's got the martyr card, got to play the martyr card. That's what they did. So while he's giving his spiel, he said, every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor and a badge of courage. I consider it both. Essentially, I'm being indicted for you. I'm being indicted for you. I didn't see the thorny crown on his head. I didn't see him, lugging the cross up the hill. But that's what he was doing. He's playing the martyr card. And the faithful there, they ate it up. They sucked it up. And the weird thing is you think of these people who want the 10 Commandments plastered everywhere. This is a guy who's broken all of them. These are people who, the values voter. This is a guy void of values. But he's their guy. Weirdly enough, Mike Pence didn't get really any kind of reasonable reception. You would think that's them. He is their guy. And not so much. Not so much at all. And the scary part, and this is the thing that gets me, the scary part in all of this is the faithful. Again, the people who are supposed to be our moral compass. The ones who are supposed to keep us on the straight and narrow. They're the most angry, the most hate-filled, and backing the worst person in the entire field. So what does that say about religion in this country, or at least our faith and values and freedom voters? What does it say about them? Now, I was having this conversation with my daughter today, and I was saying, look, I think religion's a good thing if you use it as a way to make yourself better, to want to be more tolerant and more empathetic and more compassionate. But if it's about fire and brimstone, if it's about punishment, if it's about, imposing your will, I'm not there with you. You're losing me. And you look at what came out of this. They're going after gender identity. They're going after, all of this stuff. And attacking all of these things. And you go, at some point, don't we have to say enough? Let's quick go to the phones. Got Alice on one. How we doing, Alice?
We're doing okay.
What's on your mind?
What I wanted to say was, religion in this country, the extremists are the ones who overly identify, I guess I want to say, as Christian. Their concept of what Christianity is, if you check the concept of Christianity like in France or England or Wales or anywhere else, a lot of these other first world nations, it's as different as day and night. And I know this because I've talked to a lot of people. In fact, a friend of mine that lives in England that had come over with her husband and lived here for about 4 months, she said, I really get scared anymore when I am talking to someone or first meeting them, and the first thing out of their mouth is I'm a good God-fearing Christian. She said, because I know that it's someone that's hateful because they inevitably start spewing hate towards other people.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the scary part to me. Look, I grew up in the Catholic Church at a time when it was about, peace and social justice. It was about, it was against war. It was, help feed the poor, help the sick. That's what I learned about this newfangled stuff, the prosperity gospel. We're all going to be rich and, screw those poor people. I'm struggling with.
Yeah, it is not the acceptable form of Christianity, I think, by the majority of people in our nation and by the majority of people in other nations. But, it's all about control and fascism. But, it is what it is. And I always say, and I believe truly, that it is a reaction towards the 70s, the late 60s and the 70s, when, as a nation, we were starting to expand social justice and equality. And so they,
for those
they turned
people,
around and they made it all about manipulation. But it is what it is. Have a good evening, Rick.
Appreciate it, Alice. Thanks so much. No, I don't disagree with her on this. When we were expanding opportunities for certain groups, you're going too far with that peace and social justice stuff. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, you'll find ours. Back after this.